Well, I think we've got a decent bunch in here. A lot of our regulars. Welcome, guys. Appreciate you guys joining us. Um, for I think there's a couple new folks, Tree Kid and John. I don't know if you've been with us before. If you have, welcome back. If not, welcome. My name is Josh, or Cujo, and then we also have Dan and Dave here with us. And we skipped the last town hall meeting because I think everybody was just kind of coming to terms with the way the world is shaping up right now, and we just wanted to give everybody time to acclimate and figure out what was going on in their lives. And I think it was important that not only that we give that time, but also that we come back and be here for you guys. Definitely a big deal for us to be here for everybody. If they obviously we're keeping the Discord open, nothing's shutting down. We're all so far healthy, and that has is definitely a boon. So. But on that same note, we wanted to kind of update you guys with what we were doing and how we were going to go about it, as well as what's going on with things like the um, drone advisory committee, as well as what's ahead in the future. So first off, I hope all of you are healthy and safe. Um, that's a big deal for us, and we want you guys to stay that way. But on that same note, hopefully you guys are still finding the means to enjoy the hobby and as best as you can. I know that here in Arizona, we just went under they're calling it stay at home, stay healthy, stay connected. Um, so, but a lot of it has resulted in decreased traffic. I still have to go to work. I work in an essential industry, so I still do go to work every day, and trying to stay ahead of it from my front has been tricky sometimes, but so far we're okay.
That brings up one of my first questions is do any of the states have a stay-at-home policy that really forbids you from going out by yourself and going flying anywhere?
To be honest, I don't think so. I think there are, well, let me correct that statement. I think there are a few. I think New York, and Dave, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. They're being pretty restrictive, yes?
See,
Yes,
Tree Kid posted something
we're
about Texas might be that way.
yeah. We are. I'm in upstate New York, but across the entire state, there are the restrictions are getting more and more severe, and appropriately so. They've just changed. For example, they've just changed contractors. So if you're a builder, up until this week, you could continue to build. Now you have to be building to resolve something for someone who's disabled or a critical part of the infrastructure,
Or
and
security issue or something
security. Yeah, that's if there are more than two people, and if you're working alone, you're okay. But you have to be you're working alone and at a distance from anyone else in the work area. So yeah, it's and it does. I'm a motorcyclist, and a lot of the motorcyclists in this area are parking their bikes because just the risk of being in the hospital right now in New York State is a bad idea from the perspective of putting that much, putting any additional strain on the hospital system. When we don't absolutely have to, is a bad plan. So we're putting the bikes in the garage as well. So people are getting out and walking, alone. But it's and so it is getting quite restrictive. But as you can see in the news, the numbers in lower New York are one order of magnitude higher than most of the rest of the other states.
Mm-hmm. So, like here in Arizona, I know they've just starting yesterday at 5 p.m. They've closed parks and stuff like that. They are still encouraging people to go out in terms of, going out for walks or going hiking or golfing and fun stuff like that. So
can't believe golf courses are essential.
But at the same time, as long as you're doing the social distancing thing, I'm sure it's probably good. But so I would imagine, I haven't gone out flying since this whole started, but I imagine I wouldn't have that much of an issue. So hopefully, if you're in an area that is like that, hopefully you've got some tiny whoops or some micros that you can fly around your backyard, your house, just to keep enjoying the hobby. I think it's very important to enjoy the things that kind of take your mind off things right now, as well as just keeping yourself mentally healthy.
The biggest thing I've noticed is there's a lot more dog walkers lately.
There are.
Yeah.
I don't know where they
In
came from, but they're out there.
In Wisconsin, all the state parks and county parks are now free, and they don't care if we fly them, which normally it's prohibited.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. Be nice to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, I keep having to travel in New York.
Oh dear.
Yeah, because I work in hospitals, so.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Please be safe, and thank you for what you're doing. That's a big deal. So, at any rate, I just want to make sure that whatever it is you are doing, that everybody is staying safe.
Along those lines, I've been looking for and certainly making some comments. This is Dave on the what can we do to help people in our communities, if they're healthcare professionals or just family, friends, colleagues. We have a unique set of skills. We build stuff, we create stuff. This is mostly guys here in this hobby. We can help. We can be leaders. We can be positive. And for example, I've been helping people who are new to working at home, and so that's an unusual thing for a lot of people. I did it for 20 years, so that experience has been helpful. In addition, I've managed through a lot of very stressful situations, and this certainly is stressful. So, I ask everyone to help each other in this community. Be positive, be supportive. Look for the positive in the situation and help, because that's I'm not suggesting that we ignore the reality. I'm asking that we look for the positive, give people the benefit of the doubt, and support them through this. In addition, if there are any suggestions for things we can do in the community, let's share them. One of my buddies is a mechanical engineer up about an hour north of me, and in the Capital District of New York. He's put together a design for a face shield. He's also working on, of all things, a potential treatment for COVID-19 with a couple of other firms. That broke the news today. So I'll pop up on our site a website that if it's I think he will shortly have the laser file details of a face shield, but there are also lots of patterns to sew masks. My wife is a master quilter, and so she's whipping up a lot of masks. And so I know there's a discussion of should we bother or not, but it's something that we can do for folks outside of the healthcare professionals.
I can say without a doubt, even in healthcare, yes, because we're reusing the same masks for a week or two at a time in many cases.
Wow. Oh, jeez. So
So
I do
I'm
know
just
that
disinfecting it every night, but yeah.
Yep.
I do know that a lot of us, obviously we build stuff. A lot of our parts are 3D printed. I do know that 3D printed masks probably, not the best idea in terms of face masks themselves, but face shields definitely. I know the NIH has posted a 3D print file for those. What I would recommend before you go print a bunch of them would be to reach out to your local, hospital or whatnot and say, hey, I can print these. Do you want them? Do you not want them? Offer. Don't just spend a bunch on filament and then, go drop them off, because unless they're requesting them, or unless they are okay with that, chances are they won't get used and they'll go in the trash, and you don't want that. And but at the same time,
what we're finding is to Josh's point, the Department of Health is a good focal point, and certainly across New York, we've got phone numbers in each county for departments of health. And so if you want to, get that question answered, hey, I can do this for you, that would be a good starting point of someone to call.
I think there was at least
Yeah,
one 3D file that was approved.
Too. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. I was just saying that there's at least one 3D file out there that was approved by Department of Health or somebody like certified.
Yeah, it was
as
the National
decent.
Institute of Health or something. Yeah.
And many that are
but
not.
It was a spin-off. It was a spin-off of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Joseph Prusa. He makes the Prusa 3D printers, which I have one. Yes, it is on NIH's 3D model page. Thank you, Sar. But he created one, and then I guess they took it and revamped it. But pretty cool thing that one of the leaders in the 3D printing industry started this, and then the NIH was able to take it and kind of conform it to what they're looking for. So pretty cool stuff coming from the maker community, which I would put easily model aviation into that maker category, because we're constantly fiddling and creating and modding and all that kind of stuff. So really good stuff coming from our communities that we're all involved in. So
yeah, if anyone's out of work, or people that are out of work, I know specifically GE Healthcare has a facility that, well, used to make Datex Omeda, but they've converted that to making ventilators now. And so they just hired within the community. They're still looking for people. These are going to be, 3 to 6 month short-term positions, but they are full-time during that time. So they've been trying to call up retired folks and just anybody that, that they can get, so they can ramp up production. So just keep an eye out in your community for businesses that may be hiring as they retool for a specific need.
absolutely. I know here in Phoenix, in the Phoenix metro area, very large area, Amazon's doing a lot of hiring to help keep the supply chains flowing. I think we have 6 or 7 Amazon warehouses here. So
yeah, I saw somebody post today that they got their Banggood order before a 2-day delivery from Amazon that took 30 days.
Right. And they are limited to just the essential items, so things for healthcare, things for, food and sundries and stuff like that, the basics. So
Is Get FPV still sending out the free hand sanitizer with every order?
I think they ran out of those. They posted a thing on Instagram today talking about face masks. So I don't know if they've come into some face masks that they were they were asking if they should send out with orders or if they should donate those. Um, so, I don't know what the plan is with that. Yes. So, Fernando, that kind of leads us into a good segue. So, in terms of the FAA, they've been relatively quiet. I do know right about before all this started that they were asking pilots. Oh, he's not. Hang on one second. Oh, there he is. Hi, Fernando. So we were just getting to your question. In terms of the FAA, like I've been saying, since this all started, they've been pretty quiet. But on the flip side, I know just before this all started, they were asking pilots for their recommendations on remote ID, how it would help them, how it wouldn't help them, that kind of stuff. Now, beyond that, I would imagine the FAA kind of has their hands full with what's going on in the airline industry and whatnot. But that doesn't mean that we are, kind of calming down. However, our next kind of push, it would be a congressional push, generally directed at the transportation committees that would oversee the FAA. But as you might guess, that Congress right now probably has their hands full. We know they have their hands full. They've got a lot going on. So what we plan on doing in the probably this week is posting up on the website a letter to Congress. However, it's going to be kind of a quiet soft launch. Here's what we don't want. We don't want you guys to send a bunch of letters to Congress right now and have them get ignored in the chaos of what is going on right now. So we will be posting up the letter. We will be opening it up as we have with a lot of our documents related to the NPRM to comments from everybody. And you can take that and give that a push to those Congress people who are on those committees that oversee the FAA. And we want to be careful in some regards. You want to contact the Congress people who represent your state or your district, so that it's coming from one of their constituents. If we were to, basically face slam everybody all at once, a lot of the comments that aren't coming from their constituents might fall on deaf ears, and that's definitely not something we want. So that's going to be our next push. TextJet, to answer your question, there has been no hard date on the decision. First off, the community, and by community, I'm not just saying the FPV community, but the model aviation community, the commercial UAS community, a lot of the corporate community, we all did a really bang up job of submitting comments. And I think to a degree that the FAA never expected, to a degree that they weren't prepared for. So I imagine it's going to take a long time to get through those comments. I think it's going to result in some hard conversations with the entities involved with making those decisions. And by entities, I'm specifically kind of calling out the Department of Homeland Security, DoD, that kind of stuff. So I would think in the meantime, reaching out to our congresspeople, letting them know our feelings, letting them know why we fly, along the same lines as some of the comments that were left. I would try and keep it as professional as possible, which is why we're releasing an actual letter that you can use. And in this case, a copy and paste will work, but I do still encourage people to take it and make it their own and share your story. Keep it, informational, keep it, relevant to what's going on. But again, like I said, it's going to be kind of a quiet launch. We don't want to go full tilt right now. I don't think it's neither the right thing nor the prudent thing to do. I don't want everybody going out and blowing things up. Again, take your time like we did with the comments. Hopefully you did with the comments, to write something that is, worth their time and really shares what the hobby's about and what we're trying to accomplish and that kind of thing. So, Dave, any other additions to that? Adoption.
That's weird. I don't know why, but Dave is talking and I can't hear them, but everybody else probably can.
So in the actual NPRM, there is a timeline how things kind of progress into a full remote ID system, and that was a part that was expected to take up to 3 years. Correct? It was, but it could be anywhere from, and this would be on the guessing side, anywhere from 12 to maybe 18 months, 24 months for them to actually come out with a final rule. And it's not until that final rule, unless they change the timeline that was in the NPRM. So let's say it's 12 months, right? So it'd be 12 months from now they would implement the rule. Then it would be a full 3 years with things slowly kind of dropping along the way, until it was fully implemented. But again, they can change some of that language in the NPRM, and it could be quicker, it could be longer. It just depends on what's going on.
Also, an executive order, and the two bills are very close in content. Well, they're corresponding. It's Senate 2502 and House of Representatives 4753, and there's an executive order that has much the same content. And these the two bills are all about restricting the sale of drones or drone components made in China to a federal entity or any entity that the federal government funds. And so that could be a university, a high school, municipality, etc. And so those are, we're keeping watch on those, and part of the benefit of working closely with the Drone Advisory Committee is we've got contacts in manned aviation as well as larger firms in unmanned or UAS aviation that are that have teams, governmental affair people who are very happy to work with us and share with us, what they're learning and what would be a prudent approach. So, those are the bills that we're also keeping an eye on.
Yeah. And I would imagine with the current situation that's going on, there's gonna be some fallout one way or the other with in regards to stuff coming in and out of China.
Yeah, I think so too.
Just saying. So we are keeping a close look at that, and that could be a big deal further down the road. Now, would that directly impact the hobby in terms of on a personal level? Probably not, but in terms of STEM and its impact on youth and that kind of thing, yeah, absolutely. It could result in, either a complete lack of parts, being able to get parts for those STEM courses. It could be really damaging to the commercial industry. It can definitely lead to a lot. So
Well,
yeah,
a lot of the manufacturer facilities in China are actually managed by U.S. companies as far as production of, like, say, flight controllers, ESCs, so on and so forth. So I wonder how that would be impacted.
It's definitely an interesting approach. I do know you are right. There are facilities there that are managed by U.S. companies, but on the flip side, a lot of, I would say, I know of some companies that do kind of run their own factories over there, but at the same time, there's a lot of companies who get stuff that's just rebranded from another. One factory makes it and they rebrand it to everybody else's stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So, it could impact significantly, those things like universities and high schools and stuff like that, as well as the commercial industry. So, yeah, T-motor. But at the same time, it could, SR was saying, it could bring some of that business here to the United States. Who knows where that could. So, but yeah. So, Dave, what's going on the drone advisory committee right now?
There are two. I was able to get involved in two. There are two tasking groups that came out of the February 27 meeting. I'm happily involved in both. The first is on unmanned traffic management, and it's a review of ConOps 2.0. And so this is a document that has a fair amount of relationship to the NPRM. It makes reference to it. It does. There's a lot of reference in this document to commercial. Almost no reference to recreational, and so that's been. We'll see if I've put together a lot of comments that request that the document be updated with much bigger emphasis on recreational. And the document starts out on the first page describing how recreational UAS is the largest segment of UAS and is growing. So we'll see how that continues. The second safety group is on safety culture. This one is a bit softer and probably just positive, and it's not as divisive as the remote ID NPRM. The topic is we certainly in the United States have an ingrained safety culture in manned aviation. Okay, good. What can we use from that in UAS to help incorporate safety as part of the culture in UAS? So one of the points that I have been making to this group is we have a very good safety record in UAS. So we're starting from a different baseline, and lots of things that we can pick up on and utilize. Yet, we do feel that there should be a different set of metrics in terms of how you measure safety in UAS. So the FAA is continuing on the same schedule that they had put forward. So it's the They tentatively had a DAC meeting scheduled for the week of the 16th June. They have not moved that yet. We expect that to move. In addition, we have been involved in the knowledge exam outside of the DAC, but with the FAA. And so that's the UAS knowledge exam. Still have not heard anything back from the meeting that we participated in on January 14th. So it feels like a lifetime ago. But a fair amount of things going on, and this gives us visibility and discussion with the FAA as well as the DAC members, and just continue working with this whole manned and unmanned community really has been advantageous to us in that we're these are people who are very frequently modelers. They're delighted to have us around, and also because we're happy to roll up our sleeves and get work done, and that's building us a very good reputation in the Drone Advisory Committee. And that's about it, Josh.
Cool. So let's see. What other question? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I do have a quick question. So about a week or so ago, there have been a couple postings of letters from the FAA for a request for proposals for, I guess, the replacement of the LANT system. I read it as, kind of based off the NPRM. This is now they're trying to build get private companies in to put together the whole internet-based. I forget what they call it, that system.
The USS, yes.
But other people in other groups were saying, oh, maybe they're just revamping LANTs. Great, but I didn't get that take from it. I didn't know if this was just standard business as usual for the FAA to just continue on, even though because of their timelines to just get that ball rolling, and then who knows what happens. But anyway, what's your take on that?
So two things I would say, and Dave, feel free to jump in whenever, but I would say there's two things that are going on right now. One is the FAA is opening up generally once a year. They will open up, at least since the beginning of this, so last year, but once a year they open up the LANTs. Basically, it's an API that allows companies like Kitty Hawk or AirMat to kind of jump on the be able to offer LANTs capability through their apps. So that's one thing that they are asking for. So companies, like those, they want to be able to add more. So right now, I believe there's 3 or 4. The ones I know of are Kitty Hawk, AirMap, and UAS Sidekick.
Yep.
And so this would potentially add more companies to that roster. So if there's an app that you prefer to use for your check, to check where you're flying, if it's okay, or what the weather is, a lot of these apps offer that capability. This would add to those apps. Excuse me.
And
Okay.
reading between the lines, it was curious that in this RFI that came out a week or so ago, it said formerly we called this LANTs, and great, you got great, they violated all the branding dictums, right? You got a name that's accepted, so you change it. So
right,
that'll mess things up.
Yeah, that's what made me kind of take a second look at it. It's like, what do you mean formerly?
Right. Yeah. The artist formerly known as. So I believe what they're doing is trying to set the table for remote USS, and so there's of course lots of discussion about the remote ID support servers or systems in the NPRM, companies that would be managing the data coming from UAS as they're transponding. and so it appeared that they were, that they were trying to create at least a naming that would have some consistency. But I agree. I agree with everything that Josh said. That this looked like just opening up. Hey, we've got the Lance database. If you want to augment it and do similar things to what AirMap, Kitty Hawk, UAS Sidekick, and others have done, now's your time to respond to the FAA.
Okay.
There was another request for input over the last couple of weeks, and that was a request for comments on the NPRM from full-scale pilots. And
and rotary wing too, I think.
Correct. So one of the DAC members has become a good friend. That's Mark Colburn out of Texas. And he wrote up a good piece, and it was very supportive of recreational UAS. So, my thanks to Mark for good support and a good write-up on the response that he provided. And of course, coming in to that RFI as a DAC member and as a helicopter pilot is very helpful.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Got general filling. That's a good question.
I can comment on that. Happily, and this was just great. The AOPA, so the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, the Airline Pilots Association, the Experimental Aircraft Association, all had responses that were pretty close to ours. And in fact, with the AOPA and the ALPA, these are folks that we've worked with on the DAC, so we got to know them and talk through their comments. And oh, by the way, we shared our draft comments with all of those organizations, and it was very well received. So the general feeling from a lot of the airframe manufacturers, as well as the associations of manned aviation, was quite negative toward the remote ID NPRM. And so that helped us enormously to be able to say that our comments were consistent with many of the aircraft manufacturers and associations and organizations. So yes, there were a couple of exceptions, but not aircraft. Amazon was a standout in being supportive of the NPRM. AUVSI was very supportive. The good news is, out of 50 or 60 companies that we work with, there are 2 or 3 that were supportive, and so overwhelming majority were critical of the NPRM, or the remote ID NPRM.
Yeah.
Good question.
Excellent question. Somebody else was typing something. I'm waiting for it to appear. Feel free to jump in on voice too, guys. Don't make us talk all the time.
Guess we've got a lot of shy people tonight.
That's fine. Whatever.
I would make one other comment. This was out in the public space, so I'll repeat what was put out there. Everyone on this call probably saw that Tyler Brennan, the owner of Race Day Quads, shortly after the NPRM comments were closed, he said, "Well, I think we should sue the FAA." So it was intended to be a stimulative comment, and it did. It created a lot of buzz, and it's very possible that we may create a trade association, and I'm happy to say that I might run that trade association. And it's still in the formative stages, but this could be beneficial to the companies, the retailers, the manufacturers in predominantly in FPV. But this is I don't think I've still got plenty of time to work on FPVFC, and this could be beneficial to our whole community, and there are a number of the manned associations or organizations on the DAC are trade associations. So
Yep.
this is, and I've learned that a trade association is a 501c6.
C6. Yes.
And that trade association is significantly being impacted by the coronavirus stuff going on right now, if I understand, right?
Exactly right. We've put pretty much everything on pause. Thank you, Dan. Key point, because the industry is being upended, and we feel that we want to make sure that we can get the attention of the folks in Congress, in the FAA, as well as the members who would be the business owners in the industry.
Yeah.
FAA approved UAV. I don't understand the question.
Can you clarify for us, Pyro? So, one of the things, and I just want to kind of, go ahead, Pyro.
Well, there was like a section in there stating that it has something about FAA certification for flying anything. That was like the biggest thing. That was like, that's kind of going to cause a monopoly for whatever.
So,
they...
yeah. And
you're referencing the remote ID and PRM, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely one of the things that we called out was that certification, basically restricting UAVs to that, essentially that were standard remote ID.
Right, you got it.
That were standard remote ID, limiting that to FAA approved manufacturers. And then if you build it yourself, you'd be stuck flying at a FRIA site. Those were all things that we called out in the NPRM. So, one of the things that, not only did we call it out, but we offered solutions. And one of the solutions.
I was just wondering about that because I kind of jumped in a little late to hear that.
That's okay. We definitely called that out, and we definitely offered some solutions. Like, if we're going to do remote ID, let's have it be a component as opposed to an entire UAV. That way, the entire United States is not throwing their entire UAV fleet into the garbage just to get something else. Because one of the things we discovered was that the FAA, was it 98%, they said, was firmware upgradable to comply with remote ID, when in all actuality it's 0%.
And this was a key point.
That more like 1%.
Well, it's 0 because of the gotchas, the way the NPRM was written. If they lifted or got rid of the internet capability and made it a broadcast only, then many existing DJI drones could be firmware upgraded. And while few of us have DJI drones, that would be a step in the right direction. And we put forward that notion of broadcast only, which would allow a lot more devices. And we also requested some level of way to fly as recreational and get around the amateur built requirement that was put forward in the NPRM. And both of those points were picked up by not only DJI, but AOPA, EAA, ALPA. So it's great that it's not just there were points in the NPRM that would have destroyed recreational UAS that the manned aviation community picked up on and supported us with. So that was great.
So Ace had a good question. How many full-scale pilots are in our group here? I would honestly say, in terms of full-scale pilots as members, not 100% sure on that answer. But I would say that in our Facebook group and probably here on Discord, there are a lot of full-scale pilots, because not only does model aviation translate to full-scale, but a lot of full-scale pilots in their off time enjoy model aviation. So, they either start with model aviation, move into full scale, which is something I want to do. I started with model aviation, and I want to get my private pilot's license. But on the flip side, there's a lot of people who enjoy flight so much that when they're done with their job, they turn to model aviation. So there are several that I've had conversations with. I know Dave and Dan have both had conversations with. So there are quite a few. Let's see. I think. I don't. Dave, do you have anything else, or Dan? I think I kind of hit everything we wanted to hit. Oh, I did want to mention, I'm sorry. The trade association would be, I do want to say this, as we're still in the formative stages, completely and 100% separate from FPVFC. Two separate entities, both focusing on different things. The FPVFC obviously focused on individual pilots, the hobby, that kind of thing. Whereas the trade association would be focused more on coming together as a unified community of manufacturers, suppliers, retailers, that kind of thing. And the inherent, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of respect.
Overlap?
Yeah, I would say more so respect for a group of companies that employ, hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the United States, and the communal voices of those companies, which, sad to say, but at the same time, in this respect, good as well, that companies are often looked to before individuals. So we can kind of tackle some of the issues of the day, like remote ID, from two different angles. So it makes sense, coming from both directions, I guess. So, but I do want to say, yeah, like the CDA, but good guys instead of bad guys. Yes, absolutely. Text Jed's got it.
Ooh, the CDA. Ooh, much sucking of teeth. Yes, very familiar with the CDA. That was certainly was another organization that was very supportive of the FAA remote ID and PRM.
For obvious reasons.
Much to our chagrin. Yep.
So.
Quick question. So you're saying companies are more likely to try to represent, but to tie back into my full-scale pilot thing, what if we could find a bunch of full-scale pilots who could stand and say, we as individuals fly FPV and we're pilots and we're against the NPRM? How would that, if we could find a group and put together a video or something like that, how would that affect things?
Honestly, I think it would do nothing but help. I would never shoot any idea. But at the same time, we need to find who those people are, figure out if they're willing to do a video. I would say the hardest part of doing something like that is getting the buy-in of the people to take the time to do that. And I'm just coming from an era of we've tried to get people to make videos before. It's not the easiest thing, but at the same time, if it's personal enough to them, I would imagine it would be a great thing. But we can definitely put a call out on Facebook. You can put a call out. I'm happy to do it. Any way that we can get that done, I am down with. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Cool. I'll follow up on that right now with that.
Perfect. That's awesome. Let me know if I can help you in any way, what I can do for you. I'm cool.
Yeah, and just Sarah's written a comment here. Seems like a good idea. Seemed there was low involvement on the commercial side of the community with respect to the NPRM, hobby drone sales shops, vendors, manufacturers. Yeah, it was a mixed boat. Rotor Riot sent in comments. DJI's comments are legend in their 80. Yes. It's an excellent document, 89 pages, worth a read, and I mean that sincerely. It's really well thought through, and very supportive of recreational. And there were a number or a couple of the manufacturers that chose not to reply, but fair number of hobby organizations. AMA comments, I think they were about 16 pages, was excellent. It was very different from their initial perspective. And Horizon, their comments were very good and a bit different from some of their earlier forays. So yeah, it was lots of mixed messages. Not sure what that means.
Well, I think I know where he's going with that. I think that a lot of different companies had their own kind of take on their message that they sent in with the comments. One of the things we did do was we did, try and get our comments, our talking points out there as quickly as we possibly could, so that we could kind of aid in not having so much of a mixed message.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I think it helped a ton.
It did.
And that's where if you look at what DJI put forward and what we put forward and what AOPA put forward and what ALPA put forward and the EAA put forward and the AMA put forward and Horizon Hobby put forward, from the central, from the important tenets, they're really aligned. And so,
but I think from the FPV community, in terms of the retailers there, maybe not
fair
so
point.
much.
Absolutely fair point.
So I think a lot of what we can do from the trade organization side is come together, come to an agreement, and we can all speak with one voice.
Really good point. Yep.
The trade association, is that mostly gonna be FPV, or are you even trying
Unknown
to bring
at this
in like
time.
DJI and stuff? Because during some of those comments around Tyler's initial posts and subsequent posts, I saw Brendan in there quite a bit, and it almost sounded like he was willing to give advice. I mean, legal advice.
So Brendan, of course, is a vice president of governmental affairs global for DJI, and of course he is a Harvard attorney, and so he could not officially provide legal advice to another firm. In addition, given DJI's market share, they would
probably
come under
away.
They would likely come under scrutiny because of their market share if they joined a trade association. So
right. Yeah.
I've only once in my career did I work in a product area that had overwhelming market share, and we would never have considered working in a trade association because of antitrust implications.
Right. The only reason I mentioned it is because of some of his posts, but it sounded, obviously he was just speaking as an individual. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and definitely, and the thing I will say is that as an individual, Brendan has some skin in the game. He enjoys model aviation just as much as the rest of us.
And he's a member on the DAC, and he's fantastic. I mean, he is such an advocate for recreational.
Yeah. So I think anybody that we can involve on a personal level is all the better. And then in terms of, is it going to be FPV or model aviation as a whole, we don't know. That's going to be up to the individual companies ultimately on whether they want to kind of jump in. There's not going to be it's not like we can mandate you're gonna join, but we can offer some benefits and whatnot to make sure that it's something that is feasible and wanted in amongst the companies there. So. Did I lose everybody?
Good, no, good questions, good comments. Anything else?
Absolutely. I don't have anything. Anybody else have any questions, comments that we can answer? Discuss, chat? All right. Well, with that, we are exactly an hour. Oh, we got a couple people texting.
Tree Kid. Yeah, I still have this Discord
Is
thing.
everybody flying more now that Brian is shutting everything down?
It's been raining. raining.
I'm still working, so I haven't had an opportunity to go out and fly. But,
yeah, so much rain. I agree. So much rain.
No, I'm just saying, like, the people that are off work, this is your chance to go out and fly because it's going to be empty everything.
right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I saw some post of someone flying. Was it downtown San Diego or LA or something? It's totally empty.
Oh my word.
Oh,
wow.
my
word.
Now's the time to get those crazy shots like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some
it's
of
just kind of funny the few times I've been out just hitting up normal spots. There's just way more people than there usually is.
Yes. Yeah, as we were talking, lots of folks walking their dogs.
Yep, like we talked at the very beginning. Yeah, I just see way more dog walkers than ever before. I guess that's just when people get out of their houses now, they're taking their dogs for a walk.
I think a lot of it is, when it's your choice. I think it's mental. I think when it's your choice, if you want to sit inside for a week, you don't think anything of it. When somebody tells you you have to sit inside for a week, you can't go outside, then the game changes.
right, absolutely. It's funny because I was on, I took a couple of days off work, and my wife and I were sitting inside, and we were just like, normally we are very, insular, we enjoy spending time together alone, but there were points in time where we were just like, what do we do?
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Lots of good close to dogs elsewhere. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining. We appreciate it. Great questions tonight. You all have a good night, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Yep. Hopefully see you guys in 2 weeks.
All right.
Very good. Thank you all. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.